is insane to me how the general narrative when it comes to modern video games is this idea that games don't get made anymore, that no one produces new IPs, are no up and coming developers, everything's shit, everything's bad, everything's fallen off. Like everybody keeps screaming about this all the time. They want to keep talking about Halo, they want to keep talking about the Elder Scrolls. They basically want to keep glazing a bunch of brands that honestly were never really that good to begin with, while downplaying all of the really good stuff that's coming out all the time. Now, usually this stuff is Nintendo exclusive. I've gone to great lengths talking about how great Mario Tennis Fever has been, and Pokopia, Tamagotchi Life, Yoshi and the Mysterious Book, the Star Fox remake, and the recent Splatoon Raiders. But to my surprise, my favorite game this year, and I think the best RPG on Switch too so far, and perhaps the best RPG we've seen in a long time, has been Granblue Fantasy Relinked. Now, as a bit of a disclaimer, I have actually been interested in this game for a long time. I remember that it was actually on my wish list on Steam. I was going to get it. I was really hyped for this, but considering the sheer amount of stuff I had to get through on Nintendo consoles, considering how disappointed I was in Steam in general, considering how I have uninstalled Steam and no longer use it in any capacity because it's a worthless service that is overpriced, useless, has a poor selection in games, and just overall has this really toxic community that doesn't really play games at all. I chose to pass up on Granblue in order to wait for the inevitable Nintendo port. And now that it's here, I can safely say that this game is well worth your time and money. This is better than any modern Final Fantasy, and by that I mean anything made in the past 25 years. This is basically what Final Fantasy VII are and Final Fantasy 15 wanted to be, a full-length Kingdom Hearts style action RPG with an original setting and characters. And before we do anything else, I do think we do have to address what's been happening in the gaming space, because games like this are infinitely better than I think recent offerings from major AAA Japanese RPG studios. This is better than Suikoden. This is better than Final Fantasy. This is better than any modern Dragon Quest. This is better than Nier Automata or any of the Kingdom Hearts or any of that stuff. The issue, though, is that because this is like from a company, Cygames, that is primarily known for mobile games, that this was going to be a thing, right? That this wasn't going to be competitive. This wasn't going to be as good as what we see from other companies, and that it was coming from it was a new IP, and that like it just doesn't have the brand recognition. But the simple fact of the matter is, it is becoming increasingly clear that a lot of mobile game companies are using the resources they've obtained through their mobile gaming successes to put out serious, high effort, like big budget games on real hardware, like actually producing full-length JRPGs. 10 years ago, we were told that everybody would abandon AAA game development to try and like compete in the mobile space. But in actuality, what's happening is that we're seeing a lot of mobile game devs, people like Shift Up and now these guys who are using their massive gains from their mobile game divisions to break out into console devs. And because like the console versions aren't their primary focus, they can put a lot of time and effort into them to make them really excel and make them shine and make them better than what Square and Capcom would be capable of. So it's really interesting to think about this game and its history, how it spent so long in development, how Platinum Games was on board and then got fired, how this has been like this thing that's been on the back burner for a long time. It's interesting how like it was something that was kind of dismissed and ignored. And now that it's actually here, has turned into like one of the most visually impressive games I have ever seen out of the genre. Like I was bamboozled playing this and just seeing all the crazy visual effects, all the crazy monster designs. Like every boss in this has multiple phases. Like, I was shocked by just like the scripted events, the environments. Like it's really interesting because on a surface level, this game seems like it would be very basic. It's a 20-hour long RPG. And yet, when you actually play it, what you get is a very basic, simple RPG that nails all the character archetypes and gives it that flavoring that like I've been craving for like decades. Okay. Because the characters are very simple, they are very straightforward. But as a result of that, what you get is an RPG that is impeccably well paced. You know, it shocks me to say this, but playing things like Tales of or Final Fantasy, like a lot of these modern RPGs feel like they're very much padded. It feels like they have a lot of stuff that doesn't really go anywhere and it's not really fun. It's not really interesting. Like Granblue in comparison is like 20 hours of peak content. Okay. Like every area is different. Every enemy encounter is different. Every boss fight is radically different. Like Granblue does something that I think a lot of other RPGs have completely forgotten in that it does have a story, it does have characters, it does have a setting, but that's not the focus. Like Granblue is first and foremost an extremely gameplay focused RPG. And I think that's something that like modern RPGs have lost focus of after Final Fantasy VII. And it's not something we really even noticed, right? Because I think a lot of people for the longest time have thought of RPGs as being like story-based things, and the gameplay mechanics are secondary. But Granblue is not like that. Granblue goes to great lengths to make sure every boss fight looks cool, that it has a ton of different moves, that you have like a variety of different characters to choose from, all with their own play styles. You know, it has like a variety of different skills. It has like, you know, a skill tree. It has like this really complicated weapon upgrade system. It has like all these really crazy like features that just give the gameplay itself a lot of depth. And then you start playing the game, you start seeing all these like different environments, and you see how much effort they went into like cultivating the lore and designing these bosses, and like especially the visual effects. Like I think this is the best looking RPG I've ever played, because the bosses have these like seamless transitions between like their phases, where they start like where you start beating on them and then they take on a new form, or maybe like some enemy comes in and like starts helping you. Like you just get like all these crazy scripted events that I feel like just would not be possible in any other RPG. Like it's kind of crazy how like how sometimes you're like going to a new destination and the antagonist just kind of like send another airship after you. And so you have to do this sky high battle where you have to like start taking out their ships. Like you see them like, you know, coming up next to you and like boarding, and then you have to fight them off, and then you have to go onto their ship and take out their ship, and then you crash it, and then you have to start running back and like start going to your ship. Like all of that is just something that I've never really seen before in any other RPG, and it doesn't really feel samey. They never use the same script twice. And it really gives you this vibe that this is a setting that's like bursting with creativity, where things like this happen all the time. Like all the characters have that quippy kind of Marvel hero like style of just like nonchalant, just going through the motions. And yet like it really does work. It really gives this game this feeling that it's some spectacular like adventure that you're on, and that like the characters do this kind of thing all the time, and it really makes you excited about what you're going to see next and what you're going to encounter next. And like throughout my entire 20-hour playthrough of the main story, there is a pretty expansive expansion that I have not touched yet, by the way. Like throughout all of it, you're constantly meeting new characters, you're constantly like in new environments, fighting crazy new bosses, and just kind of like experiencing like all of this peak content, like every chapter. Like I would argue maybe towards the end it kind of falls off because it keeps throwing all these twists at you that like that work but feel kind of pointless. But like at that point, the game has been like so consistently creative and original so long. It feels like they're just kind of going through the motions of like, oh yeah, we have to like fight shadow versions of all the bosses again, and we have to like have that moment where the bad guys join our side, and then like, you know, the final boss just keeps getting back up again. I don't think I know of any other final boss in any other game that keeps coming back the way this broad does. It's remarkable. Granblue Fantasy is really interesting because you can definitely see how it's like very much rooted in like traditional JRPG like archetypes and cliches. It's really not that original on like a surface level way. Like it doesn't seem all that different from other games like it, but like when you really start playing the game and you start seeing like the little touches they've had, like one of the things that really stuck out to me about this is that like every enemy encounter is like scripted, right? So you go through the story mode and then enemies come at you at like scripted intervals. And in any other game that would feel kind of forced or lazy or like, overly scripted, but like with the way Granblue is set up, like every enemy encounter feels impactful. It feels like everything actually matters. You go to an island somewhere that's beset by goblins. You actually have to find the villages that are under attack, fight the goblins, save the villagers, and then move on to like the next location, right? It actually feels like you're actually helping these people and you're actually like accomplishing something. You get into these icy ruins and you have to find a guide to open doors for you, right? You have to like, you learn a little bit more about the setting and the world and like the history of it. And none of it is like particularly original, but it's executed so well that it kind of exceeds like what you would possibly expect from it. Like instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, like it's made the wheel better. Like for example, the little girl in this, Lyria, like the special girl with the crazy powers. Like I feel like in any other game, she would be a party member and she would be like nerfed in like combat scenarios and all that. But in this one, like she's with you the entire time. She's part of the crew. She's a major character in this. But she is not a party member in the traditional sense. Instead, the way her powers work is that occasionally she steps in to like deal like crazy to pull off crazy stunts that like use her unique powers in interesting ways, like usually summoning her dragon Bahamut or like creating a force field to survive attacks or whatever. Like, and it's like context sensitive. So you're doing this ARPG battle and you have this AI character that's just kind of there, and then like inexplicably she just goes like, let me do this, and then she does it, and it's like the most badass thing you've ever seen. Like again, things like that do wonders for really making you like feel invested in everything that's going on. Like it feels like they did such a great job of integrating like the gameplay with the overall story that it really feels like they kind of blend together without like really getting in the way of each other all that much. Like again, the story is so basic, it allows the gameplay to shine in a way that I think other RPGs would struggle with. And I think a really good example of that is the game's quest system, because there is a Monster Hunter style mission structure system where you go out to these various islands and accomplish tasks, like maybe fighting old bosses again or fighting off hordes of enemies or doing other tasks, right? Like there's this Monster Hunter style quest system in this RPG. And what that means in practice is that like this is how you're gonna grind, this is how you're gonna gain like experience, this is how you're gonna like experiment with different characters, and most poignantly, I think it is going to give the game an insane runtime, because like the main campaign is going to be finished in 20 hours. It's a very well paced RPG, but it also offers a ton of post game content. Like I said, I haven't like really delved too much into it, but like I can tell just simply by looking at it that it's going to be quite substantial. I would say quite a bit more than 60 hours, going by my estimation. And going by what I've seen, where the post game stuff feels like it has like the same effort and time put into it than like the actual base game, is just like unbelievable to me, because like we're still seeing character development, we're still seeing like plot lines getting resolved, we're still like going to new areas and like fighting monsters and like completing real quests that have real stakes. Like just because the antagonist has been beaten doesn't mean that like the story is over in a sense. Like the problems don't just go away, and I really love that about this game, where they actually went the extra mile to make it feel like an actual location with its own characters, problems, and just plots to resolve. The entire game, in a way, kind of feels like a side quest because the actual end game of the end game goal of the crew is to get to Estalucia, and they come nowhere close to resolve it, to reaching that goal in this game. They're just kind of still on their way there. Again, I haven't played the mobile game, so I don't really know anything about it. I don't know if it's going to happen in the mobile game or if they're going to do a sequel to this or if this is going to be one of those things where it just continues indefinitely. It really feels like they want this to be like the video game equivalent of One Piece, because it really does feel that way, where it feels like this kind of thing can just kind of like happen anywhere and like the characters will just get involved and like, oh, here we go again. Like, I'm very curious about what the future of this IP is going to hold. I don't know if the mobile game is going to become more popular here or like what they're going to do, but like I do think the developers do need props for what they were able to accomplish with this. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of the game, and I hope Cygames is able to come out with more stuff. I had a look at their portfolio, and they're only known for like Uma Suma, say, or the dumb horse racing girl game, which I won't play. So hopefully they like make more stuff like this and less stuff like that. In my mind, we'll have to see like what results from this, because the game seems to be doing fairly well. I've seen a lot of people praising it on social media, but I was a little bit behind and I wasn't able to finish it until just recently. But now that I have, I am very happy with this product. And I really think that everybody needs to come out and support this. Like, this is, I think, quite a bit better than like any of the RPGs I've played recently. Because, I love Tales of Berseria, right? But, that was a decade old game. Tales doesn't have the best combat. And it felt like it went on too long, right? There are plenty of problems with Berseria, right? I fundamentally don't think there are any real problems with Granblue Fantasy. Like, you can nitpick things and like for example, I think the exposition in this game is like really, really bad because they don't do a good job of like explaining how the world works, and it's all very confusing because this is technically a spin-off of a mobile game, and like they expect you to already know the lore and be up to date with how everything works, and it's just like you can like nitpick about stuff like that, like, because like I said, it is a very straightforward RPG, but the thing is, I like that about it. It's one of those situations where I look at this game, I look at like, it's the things about it that people might be put off by it, and like in a lot of ways that makes me enjoy it even more. Like, I don't want plebs playing this game. Like, this is an action RPG made for like hardcore RPG players, and I really do think that is a big reason why it excels so much, is that it doesn't really compromise. It doesn't really try to like be something it's not. It's not trying to reach general audiences. It's just a really, really, really solid RPG that I really, really love.